Okay, welcome to today's daily vibes for whenever or September 5th, which is a Sunday. You can go ahead and pick whichever card is speaking to you or watch all of them. And if you get a different message from what I say from the card, please put it in the comments below. It's cool to see what different readings we have. So we'll start with this one here. We have conditioning, and that's in reverse. So we'll put it up there on the side for you. So look at it upside down first, see what's speaking to you in the imagery. It's pretty clear to tell that there's a bunch of animals around a bigger animal, and that's the main thing. If we look at it right side up, it's clear that there's a lamb or a sheep tied to the back of this lion. So in talking about the message of this card, we got a bunch of cars going by outside. The message of this card that I'm from the book, and this is the Osho Zen Tarot, is this story about this lion that's been brought up by sheep, so brought up to think that it's sheep. And when we're looking at it right side up, we can see that this sheepskin, as it looks like, is tied to the back of this lion and is sort of binding its feet. So this story is the lion is raised by sheep to think it's sheep, so it's not fulfilling its full potential. And then a sort of teacher lion takes this lion aside and teaches it's a lion, basically. And that's the message of being true to yourself, being comfortable, not being in the herd. You know, it may take some time to find your sort of pack of other lions. So there may be a period of being alone that can feel uncomfortable, because being in this crowd is comfortable. But being on your own is going to be transitory until you find a group that's speaking to you that matches your potential, because you can really never go back to this community. But it is in reverse, and in reverse it looks to me like there's a lion in a bunch of sheep, but I didn't notice that there was like a sheep tied on its back. So the feeling that I'm getting is that you already know that you're different from sort of the pack of the crowd, and you're in it, and it's not so much about an awakening from that conditioning as much as continuing going on. Maybe you're back in sort of that conditioning setting. I know a lot of people in the pandemic right now, you're back home, maybe with family, in those early conditioning settings, and for whatever reason you're in that space, and it can feel really tempting to sort of go back and get into those roles. But the main thing that I'm feeling is there's no need to worry about that, because if you notice that conditioning, then you don't have to be worried about falling back into it again. So I don't think you need to waste any energy being afraid of falling back into conditioning. But if you're in a space like living back with family again, being intentional about the way that you're showing up to be yourself, and realizing that can help them as well. Okay, second card in the middle here, we have got the outsider, the 5 of rainbows reversed. Oh, actually, I'm still on this one. So conditioning is 15, and I want to say that's the devil, but I don't. 15, let me double check. Okay, yeah, so this one, conditioning, is usually the devil. So if there's any meaning in that for you in particular, then that is important to keep in mind as well. But moving on to the second one, again, sorry, the window's open. Yeah. Super windy out today. Okay. Second one, the outsider. And we've got a little child looking through the gate. This is the 5 of rainbows in this deck. And that is the suit of the pentacles. So 5 of pentacles is usually the people who are outside of the church, kind of struggling through the cold. They're on the outside. The thing to note about this imagery is that the lock is actually, at least in the book they say, the lock is undone. The lock does look like it's kind of done up, but you know, when you're a kid and you go up to a gate and you see it with the chain on that, sometimes you're just like, oh man, that's locked up. So the usual outsider, oh, was that reversed? No, I think that was right side up for you. I'm doing the reading as if it were right side up. So if it was the usual 5 of pentacles, then there might be some dire situation, and usually in the imagery of that, it's snowy outside and things. So it is actually pretty important to get to a safe space. And this one is a child as well. So, you know, if it was like an adult, I would say something different, but a child looking like this, you know, is not necessarily very safe either. So it can be important to prioritize your physical safety at sometimes, even if, you know, the kid is locked in the schoolyard and is seeing something fun going on outside. You know, if inside that yard is miserable and you don't think you can make it through being in there, then by all means, you know, like climb over that gate and go for it. But at least the feeling that I'm getting is that it might be important to sort of stick with, see what that inspiration is on the outside, even though I really want to say just go for it. So, you know, you can live a safe life and see if eventually building towards the things you want happens, but it may also be important to just get out there and go for it. On the more symbolic side of things, if you're feeling out of the loop, if you're feeling locked out with something, that sometimes can be a good time to reassess if that's a group you even really want to be a part of. So if you are feeling like an outsider, that is a good time to see when those connections and everything that you have, what are those really giving to you? Are those something that's making you feel that way for security, a sense of security? Maybe you do need to feel a physical sense of security, and in that case, then within that place, it's important to build up your own sort of world and way of being. But if you can go outside, if you can break out of that and start something new and allow different opportunities to come into life, that's really special and important as well. Okay, and our last card, we have success, and it's reversed. And so let's see when the imagery is poking out to us. can pause the video. So reversed, it's all pretty clear that there's a person riding a tiger on top of the world. And when we look at it right side up, there is that's pretty much all clear. Definitely feels more stable. But this kind of makes me feel uneasy. It's like, how's that thing walking on the ceiling? But it is the earth. So the feeling that this card is meant to be about the highs and lows, the ups and downs of success, even though the original imagery of this is a person on horseback going into success. And so the thing is with this card is like, there's a person riding on the tiger, but that tiger doesn't really look like it's celebrating. I would definitely not feel comfortable riding a tiger, but for whatever reason, this person feels comfortable riding the tiger. My feeling looking at it right side up is like, you have all this success, it's time to get off that tiger though and work with it, because if that tiger changes its mind, that success is going away real fast. So that's kind of doubled in this perspective. This tiger is the only thing that's kind of holding you down to the earth. And if you lose connection to that tiger, looking at it upside down now, with gravity you would still fall to earth, but it definitely looks more like you would just kind of fall away from that. So I think the message, whichever way you look at it, is important to utilize that success to make a solid foundation on top of which you can have more success. So for me, that feels like you're on top of this tiger, but if you look down at this tiger, you're like, whoa, this is a tiger. So it's important to get off that tiger, see how you two can both work together towards continued success. And that can be a sustained feeling. It doesn't have to be these sort of super highs, super lows. You can have a feeling of success, which is like being in the right place. And along that way, you may have euphoric highs and then medium places. And that's important to feel, is euphoric high and then calm. If things are dropping below that, there are going to be unfortunate times in life, but there should never be a space where you're feeling like that super failure, I don't think. And if you're in that space, that's totally fine. And if anything, that is good, because when you're at rock bottom, the only way that you can go is up. But I think it's important to acknowledge that I don't think it's natural for people to feel for a sustained amount of time that they're a failure or anything like that. Failure is supposed to be something that happens, then you come back from it. Unfortunately, the layout of society at the moment keeps people suppressed for long periods of time, and can for their whole lifetime. So figuring out how it is that you can get on the road in this moment to feel as though you're on a trajectory upwards that surpasses any sort of suppression that you may be under. That's the feeling I'm getting for that card. So when we look at them all together now we're looking at them all together, we've got conditioning, which is 15 and is usually the devil. That's in reverse. We have got the outsider. That's right side up. That's the 5 of rainbows in this deck, and usually is the Five of Pentacles, which is the people struggling through the snow outside of the church or the building. And we have Success, which is reversed, and that is usually someone on a horse looking like they're going through a successful parade or something like that. So if we're looking at these from, how's it going to be up for you? Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was just a little confused there for a second about how the layout of these cards appears for you, since from recording it gets kind of mirrored. But anyways, so starting on the left side, you have Conditioning, the Devil reversed, the Outsider, and Success. So combining all these together, when we start in Conditioning, in the reversed perspective, the thing that I was seeing from that was that there may be a feeling of being back in a space in which you're conditioned, but it's not the same feeling as awakening to conditioning. It's being back in that state of conditioning and not really knowing so much how to operate in that. And the Outsider, pretty straightforward. This is a child looking through a gate that can be opened, but feeling like an outsider and that sort of feeling. And the important thing to realize there is that it's okay to realize that maybe in the major group you're on the outside, but realizing that you are a part of the cycles of life, a part of whatever your spirituality is. Even from the atheist perspective, you're still a part of the flow of life. Your body will decompose, come back together. You are a huge part of life, and allowing that humility to set in, because sometimes if you feel like you're the outsider, a response to that can be to be like, oh, I'm super special, and they're wrong. And it's important to acknowledge if you don't feel like the group identifies with you, but getting into that greater or less than space can ultimately be damaging and will make it hard for other people to be able to be in a space where they can connect with the space that you're in and join you. So seeing yourself as a part of the greater whole and realizing that actually maybe the way that most people are acting is on the outside of that flow of life or something like that. And we have Success in reverse. So I don't think of that as failure so much, just because the way that I was looking at the card, everything was still making sense in terms of seeing the world, seeing this big tiger, and seeing the person. But having it be upside down, so we have the world, we have the tiger, and we have the person. The world that's the foundation for the success that you're riding on is on top of you rather than you being on top of it. And so from that perspective, it is important to get in touch with that world despite the success that you may be feeling. So sort of understanding where you came from and things like that is really important, because once that success goes, then it may be hard to connect with the world that you came from. So walking alongside that success with 2 feet on the ground is really important, as opposed to riding that success, which is going to have its own ups and downs. And together, cooperating, you can sort of have this synergy and excitement together. So going from these two are definitely feel pretty related, and going from that space, oh, I love this, thinking about, well, we've got a lion here, we've got the little child here. These are kind of our main things we're focusing on. We're not really, the sheep are doing their thing. We don't have to judge sheep definitely get a lot of judgment, but but sheep taste pretty good. I'm just being silly. But anyways, seeing this success card is, in the end here, we have this big cat and we have the person, and we can kind of think about that as being these two coming together. So a way of coming together, even though this is reversed, I still want it to be success anyways. So I'm kind of seeing it. Success is success. If that can be, if you see someone's success and it makes you feel bad, then it's important to acknowledge where that's coming from. If it's coming from a place of jealousy, or if it's coming from a place of, sometimes people are rewarded by society for doing something that isn't really good for them in the long run, and that can feel bad. So discerning the difference between those is really important, and will allow you to find the right people to connect with, to share in your own success. So whether you're feeling like the outsider or this one is inside, these both are feeling similar. So looking at these two situations, you can gain insight, because maybe this little kid wants to be a part of the group and this lion wants to get out of the group, is the feeling that I'm having. But if you're keeping on bouncing forth between those two, it may be not so fulfilling long term. But where these two are going to meet is this kid going through this gate, going towards the group, and the lion leaving the group. And these two can connect and find what it is that they are needing. So if you are feeling towards pull towards going to the herd, that's totally fine. That might be what you need to realize that maybe that's not what you're looking for. Maybe what you're looking for is community, and that's going to come from you ultimately, is being in a space, a state of mind that feels good, and then you're just going to be around other people that feel good, and that's important to have. And leaving the group for this lion is definitely important, because if that lion sticks around for too long, it's probably not gonna do a lot of good for these other sheep, So a little bit of a ragtag. And so by going towards realizing your situation as an outsider, that's sort of the one, at least in terms of the literal words that we can read. The outsider is the central suggestion here, and we can see from this, in this direction, being in a group isn't necessarily gonna make you feel like you're back inside, but going and connecting with people that are in your same sort of vibe are gonna bring that feeling of success. And the way that you find those people is by being comfortable and authentic in yourself, because it's not really appealing for anyone to start a friendship with someone who's like needy. So it's really important to get to that comfortable space first, and what you're doing and going out and doing in the world, coming from that space of just doing what you want to be doing. Even if it feels hard, knowing that that eventually is going to feel normal. Sometimes it takes trusting that passion to find authentic relationships, to go through feelings that are uncomfortable, physical feelings that are uncomfortable, and trust that that success feeling comes really quick. And if it's not, then maybe you need to mix things up a bit. So that's the splatter Andy Pollock reading for today. I Hope it has resonated with you, and we'll catch you around. Bye.